I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Princess Shainnah Santiago from Grade 8 Wisdom. I'll show you how to do the 17 hand embroidery stitches in today's video. Without further ado, let's get started. But before that, let's gather the materials we'll need for our embroidery stitching. The materials needed are an embroidery hoop, embroidery floss, a needle, scissors, cloth, and a pencil. Let's begin with the running stitch. To do this, continue weaving in and out of the fabric by pushing the needle back through the fabric to create one stitch. You can speed up the process by doing multiple stitches at once. After the running stitch is the back stitch, in which you stop the fabric with your needle all the way to the back and pull. Then you come up a stitch length away from the fabric and pull the needle all the way through. The next one is split stitch. Come up inside the threads and split them, and then backwards and forwards to split the thread. As you can see, the split stitch line forms a chain. The fourth one is the stem stitch, just a smidgen before pulling your thread all the way down. Bring the needle up to the halfway point between where you started and where you want to go. Then pull that and do the same thing. Try on the back to loop it over quite so lightly detail on the back side and secure that down using the next few stitches as shown here, and continue stitching according to the pattern. The sixth stitch is the herringbone stitch. As a result, it does not catch on the stitch. And then I'll take a small back stitch and pull it through. And then I'll cross over that stitch as I work my way back up to the line. Pick up a small back stitch of fabric as well. The couching stitch comes next. Bring a needle with the main thread up at the beginning of the line you're working to work couching. Return the needle to the end of the line. If the line you're working on is curved, keep the thread loose enough to allow you to move it along the line. Using a second piece of floss, tack down the main thread. Come up on the main thread side. To secure the thread to the fabric, repeat the tacking stitches along the line of thread. The eighth one is satin stitch. What you're going to be doing is coming in from the back on one side and then going down into the fabric on the other side over and over again until you feel it in the shape. The next one is a long and short stitch, and to do this right next to that, you're going to do a long stitch, and then right next to that, you're going to do another short stitch and repeat it again. The final flat stitch is the fishbone stitch, which moves down to the left on the opposite side of the spine. As a result, I overlapping my previous stitch. As you can see, the movement of the stitch is simply straight stitches working diagonally. A lazy daisy is the second stitch in the loop stitch. To do this, a small tug is all that is required. After that, a tiny stitch forward to secure the end. Then you return up through the same point in the middle. take our needle down on the top line. Leave a loop, go one stitch length forward to the right one, line between those two lines. Through the loop. Angle the needle down to the center line, directly cross from where I came up, and pass it over the working thread, and then draw through and anchor the stitch. French knot comes in second to last. Bring your needle up through the spot where you want the knot to be, and then take your needle and point it away from your work, and you're going to wrap your thread. The bullion stitch. You want to wrap it enough times around the needle to cover the space between or to cover the leg of the stitch. Then you're going to pull it up and give it a little tug.